While Don Jr. was in New York preparing to testify in court, his fiancée, Kimberly, was at the party dressed up as Trump's constituent, Snow White. Don Jr. was not at Daddy Donald's last night. The prodigal son was being grilled as part of the $250 million case against their business. But I did get some exciting news this weekend. According to a new poll from YouGov, which is a serious polling site, or they were before this, I am more popular than the President of the United States.
Jimmy Kimmel just did the unthinkable. He went after Don Jr. and his father in one of the wildest roast sessions ever caught on camera. It felt like watching a family barbecue where the grill explodes, the ketchup catches fire, and no one remembers who invited Jimmy. What began as light teasing quickly turned into a full-scale comedic take.
This month, we'll have International Asexuality Day. I mean, because that's a big one. Don't forget that one, folks. That's basically like Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, all wrapped up into one special, radical, insane Democrat holiday.
No, that's right, folks. And if anyone knows special, it's me, DJ TJ. Remember the guy who keeps saying I have no ratings? Well, that makes two of us. They polled more than 1,000 people, and I lead Trump by 16 points. I'm at +3. He's at -13. It's nice, but it feels like, considering the fact that I'm not a convicted felon friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and I've never paid off a porn star or sent a team of masked goons into a park to pull an old lady away from her grandchildren, I feel like my rating should be higher, maybe, than...
If you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Jimmy Kimmel just pulled off something so chaotic it has the entire internet gasping. Picture this. A late-night comedian accidentally turning into a political wrecking crew. His targets, Don Jr., and his father, the President of the United States.
Tiny soprano. I wonder what's going through his head right now.
I should have worn makeup.
Oh, yeah, good one. Here's the thing about Don Jr. What he lacks in intelligence, he also lacks in charisma. So, and as with all cases involving the family Trump, DJ TJ was sworn in on an upside-down Bible. He will finish his testimony tomorrow, and then Eric will testify, and then Trump will claim he's never met either one of them. But it's getting serious.
Kimmel didn't just roast them. He built a full bonfire, tossed in a few tweets, and lit it with pure sarcasm. It all kicked off with Don Jr., basically the human version of a Wi-Fi signal that drops mid-sentence. He stepped back into the spotlight thinking he could handle the heat, but Jimmy had wildly different plans.
At this point, finding a toenail in your salad has a 7-point lead over Donald Trump. And I hope he doesn't see this. I hate to, I don't like to upset him, but I think he might be upset because the White House put out a statement this afternoon. This is a real statement. Over 77 million Americans showed up on Election Day to cast their ballots for President Donald J. Trump, who is delivering on his overwhelming mandate to put America first. Jimmy Kimmel prays every night to garner a fraction of that support to keep his show on air after ratings dropped 64% last week. Sad. I like sad with an exclamation point. It would make a nice T-shirt with Trump's face on it, wouldn't it?
You could almost hear political PR teams whispering prayers as Kimmel sliced through Trump family antics like a chainsaw through butter. He began with Don Jr.'s latest attempt at staying relevant, which, as usual, had more enthusiasm than logic.
I'm just proud of the toughest person I've ever met in my entire life for having the backbone and fortitude to go through this whole mess, as uncomfortable as it's been. And I'm proud to have stood there every single second by his side in that freezing cold courtroom. He's an inspiration to me every single day, and he'll be vindicated.
In other words, Daddy, I was there, Don Jr. wasn't. He just showed up today.
Then came the moment everyone waited for. Jimmy turned his focus to the president himself. You know it's serious when Kimmel, a guy who once cried over a healthcare bill, suddenly becomes a razor-sharp sniper firing verbal shots at the commander-in-chief's entire persona. He didn't just mock him. He dismantled him with the precision of someone who's been taking notes since the first fake news meltdown.
Sometimes we get so fixated on Trump, we forget there are other disgusting creatures hell-bent on bringing about the end of the world out there. But our president Metamucil World Peace is having a pretty good week, or he was anyway. Yesterday, Trump had what was easily the most presidential day of his life. He was front and center on the world stage signing a ceasefire in the Middle East, and then he got home, he started going through the internet, and he just couldn't help himself. Trump made the cover of Time magazine, which he usually loves. You know, before he was president.
Kimmel's roast didn't rely on shouting or wild gimmicks. He used cold, perfectly timed humor that hits like a slap you never see coming. His delivery had that smooth late-night confidence, every jab wrapped in a smile, every punchline landing with surgical precision. He portrayed Don Jr. as a tragic figure trapped in his father's political shadow, desperate to prove he's more than Trump Jr., yet somehow always proving the opposite. Then came the metaphors. Kimmel compared the Trump family brand to an overextended reality show, still running, but everyone's exhausted, and the plot stopped making sense seasons ago.
They're eating their cats, they're eating the dogs. Welcome back to the program.
Charlie, I thought this was a conspiracy theory. And like all conspiracy theories, it turns out to be true.
What is going on with that list? A conspiracy theory, you say? Who is conspiring? Immigrants from Port-au-Prince? I mean, I read that they're woasting I with feathers.
It's disgusting and it should not be happening in America. It shouldn't be happening anywhere else in the civilized world, but that's the reality. Okay? You look at Haiti, you look at the demographic makeup, you look at the average IQ. If you import the third world into your country, you are going to become the third world. That's just basic. Like, it's not racist, it's just fact.
I don't know. Sounds pretty racist to me.
Then Kimmel zoomed out because he's never just roasting people, he's framing the whole picture. He turned the Trump phenomenon into an ongoing gag, comparing it to a company boasting big wins while secretly losing customers. It was that perfect blend of hilarious and terrifying. You laugh at the joke, then pause because it feels true. At one point, Jimmy joked about Don Jr., defending his father like someone brainwashed by motivational posters. He's always preaching strength and success while ignoring the economy on fire, cabinet resignations, and investigations piling up like overdue.
He had fake Time magazine covers hanging on the walls of his golf club, for real. But this one, I guess, conjured up some mixed feelings because of the photo being used. It's upset him so much that at 1:36 a.m. he posted, Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. Now, I want to go back to that cover and show you this crown. Okay, that's not a crown. That's the letter M. Only he would see an M on his head and assume it's a crown. If that's not an M, you're on the cover of Time magazine, okay?
Jimmy stood there smirking like the world's most patient teacher watching a student trip over the same sentence again. But what made the roast hit harder was the political backdrop. Trump's presidency, packed with daily plot twists, gave Kimmel a perfect playground. Inflation, he turned it into a punchline. The border, a chaotic family vacation. Global diplomacy, a toddler managing a lemonade stand. Every major issue became comedy gold, not because they were funny, but because the reactions around them were absurd. There's something cathartic about a comedian cutting through political noise with sharper insight.
The other sniveling MAGA turd who has a weird twist on our president's name is Don Jr.
Check this out. Joe Biden, 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 Joe Biden has dementia.
That's right. He's the one with the dementia. That's right. It's like he got bitten by a radioactive morning zoo or something. Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. Here in LA, school is out for the summer.
Meanwhile, Don Jr. ran to social media to set the record straight, which historically ends badly. His posts read like someone roasted at dinner who emails the waiter to complain. He tried spinning it into a victory, but the memes had already taken control. Then Trump stepped in because he always does. He reportedly didn't appreciate Kimmel's tone, a hilarious complaint from a man whose own tone has sparked more international incidents than any comedian ever could. His reaction was predictable. Another dramatic statement, more media frenzy,
Being honored for wearing that tie down to your knees. Every morning is a game of who am I mad at today? Is it the Cracker Barrel logo? Is it windmills? Is it Bad Bunny? Is it the Nobel Prize? Or is it the turkey vagina slapping around over my chin? I'm not sure we're even allowed to show his neck on TV. Wouldn't it be funny if the FCC fined us for showing his neck on TV? Trump went on, I never like taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? It's like he's a TikTok influencer yelling at her boyfriend for not knowing her angles.
Kimmel's jokes highlighted the irony at the heart of the Trump dynamic. The harder they push for dominance, the more cartoonish they appear. By week's end, everyone was talking about it, not because it was scandalous, but because it was bizarrely entertaining. Kimmel didn't crush them with cruelty. He crushed them with perspective. He showcased how power wrapped in vanity and ego collapses into comedy. Don Jr.
is being held responsible for making safety last, but fortunately for him, he's got an ardent defender in one Donald J. Jr.
Pete Buttigieg, you saw in the clip earlier, he's taking some personal time because, 19 days isn't enough time. Plus the time he spent chest feeding while we were in the midst of a supply chain crisis and 350 million Americans were depending on him to do his damn job. But there is no accountability. There's not even an expectation of these guys doing their jobs.
And what is your job exactly? Seriously, besides yelling at your laptop, what is it that you do for a living? What do you write on your tax return, son? Donald Trump Jr. is the only guy in America who claims himself as a dependent.
So when people say Jimmy Kimmel destroyed Don Jr. and Trump, it isn't about humiliation, it's about exposure. He held up a mirror and what stared back was a mix of ego, confusion, and self-inflicted comedy. The roast wasn't just funny, it was revealing. Kimmel didn't target policy. He targeted personas, the myth, the brand, the constant performance of power that crumbles the moment someone laughs at it. That's what made it satisfying. This wasn't a typical celebrity feud, but a cultural moment proving comedy can be sharper than outrage. Kimmel didn't destroy them with insults. He dismantled them with timing, irony, and truth.
Meanwhile, the president has been doing his part to bring the two sides together by calling one of the sides the party of hate, evil, and Satan. Hate, evil, and Satan. And that's why they call him the peace president. Teddy Roosevelt had a press conference / pity party today. He bitched and moaned and patted himself on the back so many times he almost dislocated his shoulder. He played all the hits. He bragged about winning the elections in Georgia in 2016 and 2024. He again claimed the election was stolen from him in Georgia in 2020. The blaming and the bragging, he cannot stop.
Kimmel simply stepped in and turned the subtitles into jokes. That's the genius. He didn't exaggerate the chaos. He highlighted it. Watching Don Jr. defend every move his father makes is like watching someone defend a volcano for erupting. It's just passionate, he insists, as lava engulfs half the country. Kimmel saw that disconnect, the gap between image and absurdity, and built his roast around it. Even political pundits laughed because Kimmel said what others were too cautious to admit. When people say he destroyed Don Jr. and Trump, they don't mean he raged. They mean he exposed the absurdity baked into the performance. And maybe that's the real lesson. Power can shield you politically, but never comedically. The moment you take yourself too seriously, someone like Jimmy Kimmel is waiting with a smirk, a punchline, and the reminder that sometimes the truth is the funniest part of all.